Well, we'll talk more about the situation, obviously, that Ian Beale is in a little bit later on.
Now, energy bills rose yet again by an average of £58 per household last year. So it's no wonder that more and more of us are trying to generate our own power rather than buying it from an energy firm.
Now, there are over 5,000 community energy projects up and running in the UK, and Joe Crowley has been to West Sussex to see one of the newest.
Last summer, the usually quiet village of Balcombe in West Sussex found itself on the front line of the debate about Britain's growing energy crisis. It became one of the first sites for exploratory drilling by the fracking company Quadrilla, and the anti-fracking groups turned out in force to meet them. The protests and the media attention they provoked split opinion in the village and left behind a deeply divided community.
The protest camps may have moved on, but life hasn't exactly returned back to normal here. You see, the fracking controversy got villagers thinking about where their future energy could and should come from.
Many people here were pretty clear they didn't want to have any of this as a source of energy. But now there's a plan instead for these, thousands of them. A group of residents are starting an energy cooperative to power the village sustainably and are potentially courting controversy all over again.
Jackie, where did this idea come from?
The idea came out of the troubles that we had last summer, particularly to do with the fracking and the protests that were here. But out of that, we actually got the idea that maybe there was a way forward, a bit like a phoenix from the ashes, and we could actually do something positive.
The key objective is to produce as much power in the village using renewable energy as we use. So for kilowatt, we want to produce as much as we use as a village as a whole.
To generate enough electricity to power the village's 760 homes, as well as businesses and amenities, they're going to have to find space for around 12,000 solar panels. Joe and Tom from the cooperative have been scouting around for good sites.
So we're talking about thousands of solar panels here, but this is just a small village. Where on earth are they all going to go?
Well, we're looking to put the solar panels on commercial buildings. We're not looking at private properties.
Right.
So within Balcombe itself, we're looking to put solar on the local village hall. We're looking to put solar on the local primary school. And around Balcombe, we'll be looking at large-scale roofs and eventually solar arrays on fields.
Other than the school and the village hall, they're looking to hide them away on industrial buildings and fields outside Balcombe. Places like this cattle shed on Grange Farm in nearby Crawley Down, where they're hoping to put up the first 100 solar panels. The power generated will be sold back into the national grid to offset the village's energy use. But by allowing the cooperative to use their shed, farmers Gordon and Chris will also benefit.
So this is it, is it?
This is the yard, yes. This is where they're going to put panels on the back of it. And I should be getting some reduced rates for electricity.
Ah, so that's what's in it for you then?
That's what's in it for me.
Basically.
Members of the cooperative have personally raised the £30,000 needed to install the panels at Grange Farm, but the whole scheme comes with a fairly hefty price tag of £3 million, and to help pay for that, they're turning to the locals.
So if I live here, what do I do? I buy shares, or I pay for a solar panel, or what do I do?
That's right, yeah. You buy shares in the co-op, and the shares in the co-op give you, what we're looking at is targeting a return of 5%. All the money from this project all goes back in one way or another to the local community.
Supporters of fracking say that after initial disruption, it has little impact on the environment. The same can't be said for solar panels, however. So is it really an improvement?
This is for the long term, isn't it? You're asking people to sign up for 15, 20 years. You're going to have thousands of solar panels everywhere. So is that any better?
Yeah, well, this is a long-term solution as opposed to a temporary solution. There's obviously massively less traffic and movement, and solar panels make no noise. So yeah, in terms of disruption, it couldn't be more minimal.
So how do residents feel about the scheme, and will they be tempted to invest?
I think it's a very good idea, and I think perhaps on the back of the fracking issues we had here last year, it's quite nice to do something really positive.
Hopefully it'll bring the village back together again, and yeah, can only be good.
Quite frankly, I think there are
you know, a blot on the landscape, putting solar panels on the roofs of these old buildings. I really, really do.
And if they're on this roof here on the school?
The appearance doesn't worry me.
It doesn't?
No.
Would it be something you'd consider investing in?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, my parents have invested, my brother's invested, and we're thinking of it.
We're talking very long term. We're not talking 2 years or 3 years. We're probably talking 10 or 15 years. That's too long.
After taking on the frackers last summer, Balcombe could have opted to return to the quiet life. Instead, it looks like remaining in the forefront of the energy debate for some time to come, so watch this space.
Thank you very much, Joe, and lovely Lucy joins us now. Hello. Now, these energy cooperatives are getting increasingly popular in Europe. So why is that then? Why are they catching on so much?
Well, some countries have just really gone for it, like Germany, for example. So by 2010, 40% of Germany's very sizable renewable sector was from community energy. And that's from energy cooperatives, from solar photovoltaics, like we saw in the film, and turbines. But people think there is a lot of promise in the UK as well. So experts say that by 2020 we could be powering 1 million homes from community energy projects here alone.
It does seem to be the way to go, localised energy for local communities, using the resources that you've got handy. So if you're living by a flowing river, then, you know, hydropower's the way to go for you. But
yeah, it can make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, these schemes can be very, very expensive depending on the size of your community. So what help is out there to get over that?
Well, there's lots of different grants to apply for, as I'm sure the guys did in the film as well. But there are some sort of smaller schemes that are community energy projects, but just maybe with a slightly, you know, lesser contribution. So, for example, you could get together houses in the community and bulk buy solar panels, so you can, you know, drive the price down. So the panels and the installation as well. Then you look at technology like biomass boilers, which are you're using offcuts from the wood industry, and that doesn't necessarily make so much sense for like a single household. But suddenly, when everyone comes together, it does. And really
put a big boiler at the end of the street, and then everyone's benefiting.
Yeah, exactly. Or really simple things. If everybody switches supplier together, you can again drive a hard bargain. So it's really about the power of numbers.
Really. And it's good for community spirit, isn't it?
It is, yes. Now, we reckon that Albert Square and EastEnders could do their bit to make Watford a little bit more energy independent.
Have a look at this.
So would you like to have a look at this, Adam?
I'm trying to.
So...
You got your glasses down there. You might need to put them on.
That's all right, that's distance, I'm fine.
You're good with distance. OK, well, they've got a little wind turbine there on Turpin Road. Is that right?
See, that's too small.
Oh, there you are. That one, that's bigger. That could generate, a standalone wind turbine could generate enough power for 1,400 households or 213 million cups of tea. However...
The car's got bigger.
Well, unfortunately, Albert Square's not windy enough, so that probably wouldn't work. But solar panels on the Queen Vic, that's a different prospect. We think, so there's about 60 residents altogether, yes, so we reckon we'd need 10 solar panels, 4 kilowatt panels, and we think that would cost about £70,000. So it would pay back in time, Adam, be fine.
But there's a real baddie, isn't there?
There is. Unfortunately, there's
one
one very poor performing resident in Albert Square when it comes to energy, and that's Dot.
I thought it was going to be me.
No, it's not you. It's Dot. I'm not surprised.
Hang on, but she's a wind turbine on herself.
Yes, she is. She should be generating her own power. In fact, it's all leaking from her house. So she's losing about £290 worth of energy, they think, a year. And she's got, like, single glazing. She's got no insulation, and she's got an old boiler. So Dot's got a lot of work to do.
That's not a very nice way to talk about Cora.
There's a lot of work to be done there.
Thank you. Pass the messages on anyway.
Yeah, I will do. I'll tell June.